In this video, we'll be taking a look at 3 college football games happening on October 14, 2023 and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games. So 2 picks for each game, 6 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 3 college football games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Kansas State versus Texas Tech. The Kansas State Wildcats will be trying to pick up their first road win of the season when they face the Texas Tech Red Raiders on Saturday night. The game will be played at Jones Stadium. The Wildcats are coming off a 29-21 loss to Oklahoma State as 11.5-point favorites. The Red Raiders are coming off a 39-14 win over Baylor as 2.5-point favorites. Kansas State is 9-1 in its last 10 games against Texas Tech. The Kansas State Wildcats look for their first road win to improve to 4-2 on the season. Kansas State has won 4 of its last 7 road games. Will Howard is completing 61.3% of his passes for 1,224 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Ben Sinnott and Phillip Brooks have combined for 562 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns, while Jadon Jackson has 14 receptions. The Kansas State Wildcats' ground game is averaging 202.8 yards per contest, and DJ Giddens leads the way with 488 yards and 4 touchdowns. Defensively, Kansas State is allowing 21 points and 352.4 yards per game. Austin Moore leads the Kansas State Wildcats with 30 tackles. Khalid Duke has 4 sacks, and Willie III has 1 interception. The Texas Tech Red Raiders look for a third straight win to get above a .500 record. Texas Tech has won 8 of its last 10 home games. Tyler Show is completing 60.4% of his passes for 746 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Miles Price and Jaron Bradley have combined for 523 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns, while Xavier White has 16 receptions. The Texas Tech Red Raiders' ground game is averaging 179.2 yards per contest, and Taj Brooks leads the way with 688 yards and 4 touchdowns. Defensively, Texas Tech is allowing 23 points and 370.2 yards per game. Then Roberts leads the Texas Tech Red Raiders with 45 tackles. Steve Linton has 3 sacks, and Malik Dunlap has 3 interceptions. Texas Tech hopes to break its 7-game losing streak to Kansas State this weekend when the Red Raiders host the Wildcats under the lights in a blackout in Lubbock. Not only has Kansas State won the last 7, but the Wildcats have won 11 out of 12 against Texas Tech since 2009, including 3 straight one-score wins in Lubbock. More recently, Kansas State comes into this matchup off a loss at Oklahoma State last week, while Texas Tech has won 3 of its last 4. The Wildcats have won 3 of their last 5 games, but both of their losses came on the road. They are very good offensively, led by the 19th best ground game in the country. They also do a good job throwing the ball and have the 48th best passing attack. They won't be able to pick up a lot of yards on the ground against the Red Raiders, who held their last 3 opponents under 110 rushing yards per game and held a Baylor team that ran the ball 30 times against them to 0.6 yards per carry on the road. So expect them to stick to a similar game plan defensively by stacking the box and forcing the Wildcats to beat them through the air. The Red Raiders split their last 6 games, but they've won 2 of their last 3 home games. They have played well offensively. They run the ball very well, and their passing game has also been good. The Wildcats struggled against the run in recent games, giving up over 130 rushing yards per game in their last 3 games. Their pass defense isn't very good, and they're giving up close to 300 passing yards per game on the road. They don't get a lot of pressure on opposing quarterbacks and don't force a lot of turnovers, so expect them to have a hard time slowing down the Red Raiders in this game. There's not much separating either of these teams, as they're both middle-of-the-road clubs in the Big 12. The difference here is Texas Tech is at home and playing its best ball of the season with wins over Houston and Baylor. Texas Tech's defense has made strides as of late, and a limited passing game should have success against a Kansas State pass defense that's 108th in the country. Kansas State has also lost both road games this season, so the Texas Tech Red Raiders to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Both Kansas State and Texas Tech have shown the ability to finish drives, as the Wildcats have scored 5 points per opportunity while the Red Raiders have scored 4.4, both top 40 marks nationally. Both offenses also are top 50 in limiting havoc in non-garbage time situations and top 35 in seconds per play against football bowl subdivision opponents, so we should expect to see fast, clean gameplay from both units. Last week's 21-point effort at Oklahoma State was Kansas State's worst of the season, considering the Wildcats have scored at least 27 in every other game and at least 40 in their 3 wins. Furthermore, the Wildcats have scored at least 31 points after every loss the last 2 seasons, so Kansas State should bounce back offensively against the Red Raiders this week. Meanwhile, the Red Raiders have scored at least 30 in every home game this season, as well as at least 39 in their 3 recent wins. The book has assigned the same total to this game as they did last year on this matchup. That's a telling sign. Tech scored 3 touchdowns and Kansas State scored 4 last year while maintaining efficient, effective drives against each other throughout the match. The final score was 28-37, going over the total. This season, both teams are averaging close to 4 touchdowns a game. Kansas State is averaging 36 points and Tech has 34. Easy math says that's 70 points. The Wildcats are averaging 39 points per game and 24 points per game on the road. They averaged 31 points per game in their last 3 games against the Red Raiders. With Texas Tech giving up 23 points per game at home, the Wildcats will be held under their average in this game. The Red Raiders are averaging 34 points per game and 40 points per game at home. They averaged 26 points per game in their last 3 games against the Wildcats. With Kansas State giving up 29.5 points per game on the road, the Red Raiders will score enough points to push the score past the total. There's a good chance the winner is going to score 30 to 40 points in this one. The scoring from these 2 squads will prevail. Over the projected total is our full game total pick. Auburn versus LSU. A pair of programs from the Southeastern Conference's West Division tangle on the gridiron in search of a critical victory down in the Bayou. The Auburn Tigers are on the road as they travel to face the number 22 LSU Tigers Saturday night. Auburn comes in off a bye. They were beaten 27-20 at home by number 1 Georgia in their previous game September 30th, though they did cover as a 14-point underdog in the contest. LSU rallied to down Missouri 49-39 on the road in their previous game last Saturday, covering the line as a 6.5-point favorite. In the all-time series between the programs, LSU owns a 32-24-1 advantage, including a 21-17 road win in the most recent matchup on October 1, 2022. The Auburn Tigers come into this game on the heels of back-to-back losses after a 27-20 loss to the Georgia Bulldogs last time out. Hayden Thorne has thrown for 643 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions on 62.8% passing, while also rushing for 198 yards and 2 scores. Jarquez Hunter has a team-high 202 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, while Robbie Ashford has 5 touchdowns on the ground as one of 3 addition Auburn rushers with 100-plus rushing yards. Jay Fair leads Auburn's receiving group with 18 grabs for 196 yards and 2 touchdowns. On defense, Eugene Ascent has a team-high 35 total tackles, including a pair of sacks, while Marcus Harris and Cam Riley each have a pair of sacks as well, and Jalen Simpson has a team-high 4 interceptions as well on the year. The LSU Tigers narrowly got by Missouri in a game that was a lot closer than the final score would indicate, beating Missouri 49-39 to improve to 4-2 on the year. Jaden Daniels has thrown for 1,969 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions on 72.9% passing, while also rushing for 422 yards and 4 touchdowns. Logan Diggs leads LSU's receiving group with 488 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns, and Malik Neighbors has a team-high 46 receptions for 771 yards and 6 touchdowns, while Brian Thomas Jr. has 37 receptions for 603 yards and a team-high 9 touchdowns this season. LSU has another 3 receivers each with 100-plus receiving yards as well this season. On defense, Major Burns has a team-high 42 total tackles, while Harold Perkins Jr. has a pair of sacks. As a unit, LSU has combined for 11 sacks and 6 interceptions this season. We're looking at a real clash of styles here between a pair of Southeastern Conference West rivals. Auburn is a smash-mouth team that prefers to grind things out. Auburn has scored more than 45 points twice, but those came in wins over a struggling Massachusetts team and a football championship subdivision program in Sanford. In their 3 games against Power 5 programs, they have scored 14, 10, and 20 points, so there is work to be done offensively. LSU is the polar opposite as they pile up points, but they give them up by the truckload as well. The Tigers have allowed at least 31 points in 4 of their 6 games this season, including 45 to Florida State and 55 to Ole Miss. The last 10 matchups between these two have been an even split both straight up and against the spread. This season, Auburn is 2-3 against the spread while LSU is 3-3 against the spread. LSU has played only 2 games at home this season, one a blowout of Grambling, the other just a 3-point win over 2-4 Arkansas. Auburn is coming off of a near nabbing of the top-ranked team in the country, against whom they were tied for just over 6 minutes to play. A run-first team, they should look to the air a bit more than usual against a softer LSU secondary. On the other side, the Simpson versus Neighbors matchup is something to keep an eye on. Playing at home, LSU should win this game, but giving double digits when you're as leaky defensively as we've seen, it's a dicey situation. Auburn will grind the clock to keep within striking distance, then take advantage of LSU's weak defense. So long as Auburn keeps LSU's pass game honest, this one should stay close enough. 6 of the last 7 meetings between these teams have been within 5 points, so the Auburn Tigers to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Auburn has had an extra week to prepare for this game, so Hugh Freeze should have a few tricks up his sleeve to limit LSU's high-powered offense. Per BCF Toys, Auburn is top 10 opponent adjusted defensive efficiency with top 30 marks in unadjusted touchdown rate and yards per play. Furthermore, Auburn holds opponents to 3 points per trip inside their 40-yard line. On the other side, LSU's defense is one of the nation's worst, so Auburn should be able to control possession with its rushing attack that averages over 200 yards per game and has top 50 marks in predicted points added and success rate. Peyton Thorne has the lowest yards per pass attempt among 16 qualified Southeastern Conference quarterbacks, and Auburn is bottom 10 nationally in pass explosiveness, so I don't see very many big plays for Auburn in this game. Keep in mind, the Tigers have scored just 24 combined points in 2 road games this season, and while LSU's defense has not been very good, Death Valley is an extremely difficult place to play under the lights on a Saturday in the fall. Auburn has stayed under the number in 3 of their 5 games this season. On the road this year, the Tigers have stayed under the mark in both contests. Auburn combined with Cal for just 24 points in their first road game on September 9th, falling well short of the 55.5-point number. They followed that up with a combined 37 points in a loss to the Texas Aggies September 23rd against a number of 51.5 points. LSU has gone over the number in all 6 of their contests this season. That includes a 2-0 mark in their home games as they piled up a combined 82 points in their win over Grambling September 9th against a number of 62. LSU and Arkansas combined for 65 points on September 23rd against a number of 55. With that said, 7 of the last 10 meetings between the teams have fallen under the total, including each of the last 5. I do not think we can rely on Auburn to score consistently in this spot despite the extra rest, but I do think its defense can have some success against an LSU offense playing its 7th straight game without a bye. Despite LSU's widely known combination of a high-flying offense and a porous defense, this total has dropped 2 to 2.5 points since it opened earlier in the week, and I agree with the line move. If Auburn is going to have a shot, this game will be played at a crawl instead of a sprint, keeping this one short of the number. Under the projected total is our full game total pick. Southern California versus Notre Dame. The 6-0 Southern California Trojans travel to Notre Dame Stadium to take on the 5-2 Fighting Irish. The annual matchup between these two teams is a classic college football rivalry dating back to 1926. The winner of this intense game is awarded the jeweled Shillelagh Trophy and adds a jeweled Trojan or Shamrock to the trophy each year. Last year, the Trojans added their jewel to the trophy, defeating Notre Dame by a score of 38-27. Notre Dame holds the upper hand all-time in this series with a record of 48-37-5 and has won 7 of the last 10. The Southern California Trojans look for their 3rd road win to remain undefeated on the season. Southern California looks its first 7-0 start since the 2005 season. Caleb Williams is completing 71.7% of his passes for 1,822 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Taj Washington and Brendan Rice have combined for 890 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns, while Mario Williams Williams has 17 receptions. The Southern California Trojans' ground game is averaging 168.2 yards per contest, and Marshawn Lloyd leads the way with 519 yards and 4 touchdowns. Defensively, Southern California is allowing 27 points and 421.3 yards per game. Jalen Smith leads the Southern California Trojans with 41 tackles. Jamal Muhammad has 6 sacks, and Max Williams has 1 interception. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish look for a bounce-back showing while improving to 6-2 on the year. Notre Dame has won 6 of its last 8 home games. Sam Hartman is completing 64.5% of his passes for 1,712 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Mitchell Evans and Chris Tyree have combined for 636 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns, while Jaden Thomas has 15 receptions. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish ground game is averaging 171 yards per contest, and Audric Estem leads the way with 692 yards and 7 touchdowns. Defensively, Notre Dame is allowing 16 points and 279.4 yards per game. Howard Cross III leads the Notre Dame Fighting Irish with 42 tackles. Jordan Boatlow has 2 sacks, and Xavier Watts has 2 interceptions. In one of the most anticipated matchups of the year, the Southern California Trojans renew their rivalry with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The Irish are coming off a disappointing loss to undefeated Louisville and continue their grueling schedule against the Trojans. They started this gauntlet with a last-second loss to Ohio State at home, then bounced back with a road win over a top 20 Duke team, then traveled to Louisville to get handed a 33-20 loss. Now they return home to face a Southern California team with the top offense in the country. The Trojans are undefeated but have played in one-score games in the last 2 weeks. They only beat Colorado by a touchdown, although they were up 48-27 going into the 4th quarter, and an overtime win last week against Arizona. They are looking to continue their undefeated season and have a chance at the playoff, while Notre Dame would love to play spoiler against a rival. Southern California raised some eyebrows last week in their game against Arizona. The Wildcats came out and scored 17 unanswered, and then the Trojans woke up and scored 14 unanswered before the half. Most thought it would then be over for Arizona, but the Southern California defense let the Wildcats stay in the game until the end, but Caleb Williams carried the Trojans to victory in overtime. A lot of people are saying this Southern California defense is a problem, and they are right. The Trojans allow 421.3 yards per game, which is one of the worst in the country. Luckily for the Trojans, they will be playing a Notre Dame offense that has looked stagnant in the last few weeks. They averaged just 18 points per game in their last 3 weeks, despite their inflated numbers. The other key for Southern California is they have the Heisman Trophy winner and favorite to be the #1 pick in the NFL draft, Caleb Williams. Williams has a 71.7% completion percentage with 1822 yards, 22 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. He is 9th in passing yards, 1st in touchdowns, and 15th in completion percentage in the country. The most impressive thing Williams has done is carry this Southern California defense all season long this year and last. It will be hard to find Southern California stock at a lower point than this, but Williams can carry this offense to 50 points easily, considering they average 52 points per game. I guess Notre Dame is getting the benefit of the doubt because it's at home in a rivalry spot, but being favored, especially after losing to Louisville last week, is strange. Southern California has defensive issues it needs to fix, but the Trojans continue to find ways to win. They have the best quarterback in the country and the best scoring offense in college football. One could argue we're getting free points with the better team. Give me the free points. So the Southern California to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. As I mentioned, this Southern California offense can score, and this Southern California defense will let people score. What I have not mentioned is the Irish defense. Notre Dame allows on average 279.4 yards per game and only 16 points per game. They look good against top-ranked teams like Ohio State and Duke, and they could show up again in this game. But last week was very telling. You are never as good as your best win or as bad as your worst loss, and I think that applies to both teams this week. Both teams did not look good last week, Southern California defensively and Notre Dame offensively. Just looking at last week, I think the Trojans showed no matter what, Caleb Williams and the offense can keep them in a game, and that Notre Dame showed their offense can't keep up in a track meet. Now looking past last week, Southern California scores points, averaging 52 points per game. Notre Dame can also score points, despite how they looked in the last few weeks. In their first 4 games of the season, they averaged 46 points per game. Against the Southern California defense, I think they could do the same. Southern California has hit the over in 13 of their last 14 games, and Notre Dame has hit the over in 10 of their last 14 games. This classic game between Southern California and Notre Dame is going to be a slugfest again this year. Notre Dame has demonstrated that they can score in bunches against suspect defenses, averaging 47 points per game in their first 3 games. Additionally, Southern California is among the top scoring teams in the nation. Both teams will have a good amount of success moving the ball and finding the end zone. The total between these two went well into the 60s with a 38-27 score last year in Southern California covering the over 63. This year the total is again about 63. Look for much of the same type of game here as last year, with the likelihood of even more scoring this time around. Despite the high total, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed. Subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.